Let's say one day you are casually at work or at home when randomly the house catches on fire. Now, obviously, you'll try to escape this tremendous fire, but all the exits are blocked, and you know today is your last day on Earth. The last of anything you'll ever do or ever be is going to end in a matter of minutes. Who is going to save you? A hero. Well, we all know a hero and a superhero is someone who will risk everything in order to protect others and their well-being. Everyone loves heroes and even has a favorite hero, whether it's Batman or Captain America or Moon Knight or The Flash, Superman or Spiderman. Fans of comics will always compare heroes against each other and even villains. For example, Green Goblin or Loki, and Flash or Quicksilver, Superman or Spider-Man. When looking at the famous Man of Steel and your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, I am certain that Spider-Man fits the title of hero better than Superman, despite Superman being the mold that created what a superhero is. My entire life I have read about the adventures of my favorite heroes and even villains. As I grew older, I continued doing this and still have to this day, to only further my knowledge of the fictional heroes we all know and love. Throughout my speech, you will learn a few of the reasons why Spider-Man is a better hero than Superman. I will be talking about how they gain their morals, their powers and weaknesses, and how their self-sacrifices. First, let's look at how each hero gained their morals. Each of these characters have a strong sense of right and wrong, otherwise they wouldn't be heroes. Superman, or Kal-El, was born on the planet of Krypton. However, his father, Jor-El, soon discovered Krypton was going to die. Jor-El then started to craft a spaceship to send him to Earth, to save him before Krypton dies. This made Kal-El believe he was the last of his kind. Jonathan and Martha Kent found the vessel and the infant inside the vessel and brought them to their farm in Smallville, Kansas. At this time, the baby had no superpowers, so the Kents named the infant Clark and raised him as their own son. As Clark's powers began to grow and form, he vowed to use his powers for the good of mankind. However, Peter Parker is also orphaned as a baby due to an overseas plane crash killing his parents. He was then taken in by his Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Whilst attending a public science exhibit, he was bitten by the radioactive spider at the age of 15 years old. This bite giving him spider-like powers and abilities. Upon learning about his abilities, he initially decided to stay hidden and only protect what he had left of a family. Then one day he let a common criminal that he could have easily stopped run free, and later learned that criminal killed his Uncle Ben. When Peter learned that with great power comes great responsibility. Peter's morals are so strong that when Dr. Octopus tried to kill his mind and take over his body, Peter Parker imprinted his morals on Dr. Octopus and made him become the superior Spider-Man. Now, obviously, it would appear that Superman had it worse, but other than losing Krypton and never knowing his family, Clark never faces any self-sacrifices or risk anything to protect others. Whereas Peter Parker not only lost his parents, but lost his uncle and is bullied every day. Peter loses his first love, Gwen Stacy, during a rescue attempt whilst fighting the Green Goblin. Not only did she die, but it was the whiplash of his webs that killed her. And despite these tragedies, Peter Parker's morals remain unshaken and is always protecting anyone he can. Speaking of protecting, to do so they'll definitely need some amazing powers, and they definitely have them. Starting with Superman, Professor James Cochleos from the University of Minnesota describes Clark by saying he is exempt from the laws of nature. As we all know, he gets his powers from Earth's yellow sun's rays. But do you know all of his powers? Superman has superhuman strength, invulnerability, flight, superhuman speed, X-ray and heat ray vision, freeze breath, and a photographic memory, and telescopic and microscopic sight. In the comic series Justice League Unlimited, Superman says, "I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard." To me, I believe Clark considers himself a god among men in this statement, and occasionally he has gone rogue on this belief, harming others with his ego. This Kryptonian does have some weaknesses, like a red sun will negate all of his abilities due to the fact that Krypton had a red sun. Magic, but the comic wizardy type sense of magic. and most famously kryptonite, the radiated shards of his planet Krypton. They act like poison to him, meaning if they're near Clark, he will start to slowly die, and it weakens him. Spider-Man is also said to break certain laws of science. As I've stated previously, he got his powers from the radioactive spider. This gives him spider-like strength, but the law of variable proportion states that as the quantity of one factor is increased, keeping the other factors fixed, the marginal product of that factor will eventually decline. Meaning a human-sized spider would be about as strong as a normal human, and not 50 times stronger. However, his powers are unlike Superman's in many ways. Yes, Spider-Man does have superhuman strength, but instead of invulnerability, he has durable skin, meaning his tissue is capable of handling more than we can, but he can still be shot, stabbed, and poisoned just like all of us. Spider-Man also has superhuman agility, his artificial web shooters, and his spidey sense to alert him of incoming danger. Spider-Man's weaknesses is much like all of ours. If we don't dodge an incoming attack, we could be risking our lives. Same for Peter Parker, but at least he can't get paper cuts. Lastly, the self-sacrifice is made. A self-sacrifice is a defining trait among heroes. It shows that they are willing to lose and give up everything to help those in need. Superman never really has to make these sacrifices. Superman's invulnerability makes it where he's rarely in true danger, because the likelihood of his weakness being around are possible but very unlikely. His superhuman speed makes him never late, and he's always on time for deadlines, meetings, or anything else he would like to do. On top of all of this, he is a freelance reporter, allowing him to be financially unconcerned. And he's also capable of having all the time he needs to do whatever he needs to do. The only loss Superman faced is Krypton's destruction. That took his family with it. But he still was adopted into an amazing family, and finds his cousin Kara Zor-El is still alive on Earth. With Spider-Man, it almost seems as if his entire life is a self-sacrifice. Peter is capable of dying just like the people he saves, and yet he still jumps into the burning building or in front of the guns to protect the people of New York. Not only does Peter risk his life, but he doesn't have super speed, meaning he is constantly missing deadlines and appointments and everything in his life to protect the innocent. He also has to pay for the chemicals to create his web fluid, and that's not cheap. Worst of all, Aunt May struggles to pay for the house, so Peter gets a reporting job to try and help her, where his boss is always trying to drag Spider-Man's name through the mud and play him as a menace. But Spider-Man is always looking out for the little guys, and he will never be a menace. Ultimately, Spider-Man and Superman are definitely both amazing heroes, but Spider-Man is more of a hero than Superman and many others, because he is always sacrificing something for others. Even though Superman lost his planet, he did find a better home on Earth, so he never really lost anything. Whereas Spider-Man did become adopted as well, but then he lost his uncle and his first love. Superman's powers are pretty great, but he never risked dying or being late or money to protect people. Spider-Man, though, is always struggling with these for the greater good. The self-sacrifices Spider-Man makes to protect people are everywhere, and that only shows how great of a hero he is. So coming back to the burning building, as you look at death in the eye, and you see that, and didn't see that hero coming to your aid, saving your life, who would the hero be?